is a chapter of Alessandro Manzoni's I Promessi Sposi, The Betrothed, a very well-known Italian novel. This is a chapter, or even a selection from a chapter, about one of the most amazing figures in the story, a true historical figure whose name was Cardinal Federigo Borromeo. He is actually the cousin of the famous Saint Charles Borromeo, who also had been Archbishop of Milan, as this Cardinal Federigo is Archbishop of Milan. Just the context here is that another major figure in this story is a one they call the Unnamed. And so when I read it, I'll refer to Signor in the text. It literally is Signor, and then stars for no name can be filled in there. At times they call him the Unnamed, or when he's referred to by others, they say Signor, but they don't say what the name is. So I'll say Signor blank. The context is this: he is a notorious, powerful criminal, and that he would actually intersect with Cardinal Federigo is kind of unthinkable. And here he's going to come to see him. So it's a very dramatic moment in the book of, again, notorious, powerful criminal, very wealthy, many servants, many serve under him, this Unnamed, coming to see the Archbishop of Milan. One more simple aspect of the context would be helpful to know. The story called The Betrothed is about two obviously engaged to be married. The woman's name is Lucia. And Lucia, the Unnamed, had kidnapped and is holding captive in his castle. And that one among many of his crimes is the main contextualizing fact in the story. Just helpful to know that, and you'll see why. I will just note the style is somewhat old-fashioned. This novel written in Italian was first published in 1827. The historical period it's about is in the early 1600s. Cardinal Borromeo, Federigo Borromeo, lived from 1564 to 1631. I'm just going to read you a line from a biography of him. His affection for the people of Milan was made evident during the great famine and pestilence of 1627 to 1628, when he fed daily 2,000 poor at the gates of his residence, and was personally an example of such absolute heroism that nearly 100 of his clergy, 62 parish priests and 33 vicars, gave up their lives in attendance on the perishing multitudes. So, from The Betrothed, chapter 23. Cardinal Federigo was employed, according to his usual custom, in every leisure interval in study, until the hour arrived for repairing to the church for the celebration of divine service, when the chaplain and cross-bearer entered with a disturbed and gloomy countenance. "A strange visitor, my noble lord, strange indeed." "Who?" asked the cardinal. "No less a personage than the Signor blank," replied the chaplain, and pronouncing the syllables with a very significant tone, he uttered the name which we cannot give to our readers. He then added, "He is here outside in person, and demands nothing less than to be introduced to your illustrious grace." "He?" said the cardinal, with an animated look, shutting his book and rising from his seat. "Let him come in. Let him come in directly." "But," rejoined the chaplain, without attempting to move, "your illustrious lordship must surely be aware who he is. That outlaw, that famous, and is it not a most happy circumstance for a bishop that such a man should feel a wish to come and seek an interview with him?" "But," insisted the chaplain, "we may never speak of certain things, because my lord says that it is all nonsense. But when it comes to the point, I think it is a duty. Zeal makes many enemies, my lord, And we know positively that more than one ruffian has dared to boast that some day or other. And what have they done? Interrupted the cardinal. I say that this man is a plotter of mischief, a desperate character, who holds correspondence with the most violent desperadoes, and who may be sent. Oh, what discipline is this? Again interrupted Federigo, smiling. For the soldiers to exhort their general to cowardice? Then, resuming a grave and thoughtful air, he continued. Saint Carlo would not have deliberated whether he ought to receive such a man. He would have gone to seek him. Let him be admitted directly. He has already waited too long. The chaplain moved toward the door, saying in his heart, There's no remedy. These saints are all obstinate. Having opened the door and surveyed the room where the signor and his companions were, he saw that the latter had crowded together on one side, where they sat whispering and cautiously peeping at their visitor, while he was left alone in one corner. The chaplain advanced toward him, eyeing him guardedly from head to foot, and wondering what weapons he might have hidden under the great coat, thinking at the same time that really, before admitting him, he ought at least to have proposed, but he could not resolve what to do. He approached him, saying, His Grace waits for your lordship. Will you be good enough to come with me? And as he preceded him through the little crowd, which instantly gave way for him, he kept casting glances on each side, which meant to say, What could I do? Don't you know yourselves that he always has his own way? On reaching the apartment, the chaplain opened the door and introduced the Unnamed. Federigo advanced to meet him with a happy and serene look, and his hand extended as if to welcome an expected guest, at the same time making a sign to the chaplain to go out, which was immediately obeyed. When thus left alone, they both stood for a moment silent and in suspense, though from widely different feelings. The Unnamed, who had, as it were, been forcibly carried there by an inexplicable compulsion, rather than led by a determinate intention, now stood there, also as it were by compulsion, torn by two contending feelings. On the one side, a desire and confused hope of meeting with some alleviation of his inward torment. On the other, a feeling of self-rebuked shame at having come thither like a penitent, subdued and wretched, to confess himself guilty and to make supplication to a man. He was at a loss for words, and indeed scarcely sought for them. Raising his eyes, however, to the archbishop's face, he became gradually filled with a feeling of veneration, authoritative, and at the same time soothing, which, while it increased his confidence, gently subdued his haughtiness, and without offending his pride, compelled it to give way and imposed silence. The bearing of Federico was, in fact, one which announced superiority and at the same time excited love. It was naturally sedate and almost involuntarily commanding, his figure being not in the least bowed or wasted by age, while his solemn yet sparkling eye, his open and thoughtful forehead, a kind of virginal floridness, which might be distinguished even among gray locks, paleness, and the traces of abstinence, meditation, and labor. In short, all his features indicated that they had once possessed that which is most strictly entitled beauty. The habit of serious and benevolent thoughts, the inward peace of a long life, the love that he felt towards his fellow creatures, and the uninterrupted enjoyment of an ineffable hope, had now substituted the beauty, so to say, of old age, which shone forth more attractively from the magnificent simplicity of the purple. He fixed for a moment on the countenance of the Unnamed a penetrating look, long accustomed to gather from this index what was passing in the mind, and imagining he discovered under that dark and troubled mien something every moment more corresponding with the hope he had conceived on the first announcement of such a visit. "Oh," cried he, in an animated voice, "what a welcome visit this is, and how thankful I ought to be to you for taking such a step, although it may convey to me a little reproof." Reproof? Exclaimed the signor, much surprised, but soothed by his words and manner, and glad that the cardinal had broken the ice, and started some sort of conversation. Certainly it conveys to me a reproof, replied the archbishop, for allowing you to be beforehand with me, when so often and for so long a time I might and ought to have come to you myself. You? Come to me? Do you know who I am? Did they deliver in my name rightly? And the happiness I feel and which must surely be evident in my countenance, do you think I should feel it at the announcement and visit of a stranger? It is you who make me experience it. You, I say, whom I ought to have sought. You, whom I have at least loved and wept over, and for whom I have so often prayed. You, among all my children, for each one I love from the bottom of my heart, whom I should most have desired to receive and embrace if I had thought I might hope for such a thing. But God alone knows how to work wonders and supplies the weakness and tardiness of his unworthy servants. The unnamed stood astonished at this warm reception, in language which corresponded so exactly with that which he had not yet expressed, nor indeed had fully determined to express, and affected but exceedingly surprised, he remained silent. Well, resumed Federigo, still more affectionately, you have good news to tell me, and you keep me so long expecting it. Good news? I have hell in my heart. And can I tell you any good tidings? Tell me if you know what good news you can expect from such as I am. That God has touched your heart and would make you his own, replied the cardinal calmly. God, 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 if I could see him, if I could hear him, where is this God? Do you ask this? You? And who has him nearer than you? Do you not feel him in your heart, overcoming, agitating you, never leaving you at ease, and at the same time drawing you forward, presenting to your view a hope of tranquility and consolation, a consolation which shall be full and boundless as soon as you recognize him, acknowledge, and implore him? Oh, surely there's something within that oppresses, that consumes me. But God, if this be God, if he be such as they say, what do you suppose he can do with me? These words were uttered with an accent of despair. But Federigo, with a solemn tone, as of calm inspiration, replied, What can God do with you? What would he wish to make of you? A token of his power and goodness. He would acquire through you a glory such as others could not give him. The world has long cried out against you. Hundreds and thousands of voices have declared their detestation of your deeds. The unnamed shuddered and felt for a moment surprised at hearing such unusual language addressed to him, and still more surprised that he felt no anger, but rather almost a relief. What glory, pursued Federigo, will thus redound to God? They may be voices of alarm, of self-interest, of justice, perhaps, a justice so easy, so natural. Some, perhaps, yea, too many, may be voices of envy of your wretched power, of your hitherto deplorable security of heart. But when you yourself rise up to condemn your past life, to become your own accuser, then indeed God will be glorified. And you ask what God can do with you. Who am I, a poor mortal, that I can tell you what use such a being may choose henceforth to make of you? How he can employ your impetuous will, your unwavering perseverance, when he shall have animated and invigorated them with love, with hope, with repentance? Who are you, weak man, that you should imagine yourself capable of devising and executing greater deeds of evil? Then God can make you will and accomplish in the cause of good. What can God do with you? Pardon you, save you, finish in you the work of redemption. Are not these things noble and worthy of him? Oh, just think, if I, humble and feeble creature, so worthless and full of myself, I, such as I am, long so ardently for your salvation, that for its sake I would joyfully give, and he is my witness, the few days that still remain to me. Oh, think what and how great must be the love of him who inspires me with this imperfect but ardent affection. How must he love you? What must he desire for you, who has bid and enabled me to regard you with a charity that consumes me? While these words fell from his lips, his face, his expression, his whole manner evinced his deep feeling of what he uttered. The countenance of his auditor changed from a wild and convulsive look, first to astonishment and attention, and then gradually yielded to deeper and less painful emotions. His eyes, which from infancy had been unaccustomed to weep, became suffused. And when the words ceased, he covered his face with his hands and burst into a flood of tears. It was the only and most evident reply. Great and good God, exclaimed Federigo, raising his hands and eyes to heaven, what have I ever done, an unprofitable servant, an idle shepherd, that thou shouldst call me to this banquet of grace, that thou shouldst make me worthy of being an instrument in so joyful a miracle? So saying, he extended his hand to take that of the unnamed. No, cried the penitent nobleman, no, keep away from me. Defile not that innocent and beneficent hand. You don't know all that the one you would grasp has committed. Suffer me, said Federigo, taking it with affectionate violence. Suffer me to press the hand which will repair so many wrongs, dispense so many benefits, comfort so many afflicted, and be extended disarmed, peacefully and humbly to so many enemies. It is too much, said the unnamed, sobbing. Leave me, my lord. Good Federigo, leave me. A crowded assembly awaits you. So many good people, so many innocent creatures, so many come from a distance to see you for once, to hear you, and you are staying to talk. With whom? We will leave the 99 sheep, replied the cardinal. They are in safety upon the mountain. I wish to remain with that which was lost. Their minds are perhaps now more satisfied than if they were seeing their poor bishop. Perhaps God, who has wrought in you this miracle of mercy, is diffusing in their hearts a joy of which they know not yet the reason. These people are perhaps united to us without being aware of it. Perchance the Spirit may be instilling into their hearts an undefined feeling of charity, a petition which he will grant for you, an offering of gratitude for which you are as yet the unknown object. So saying, he threw his arms round the neck of the unnamed, who, after attempting to disengage himself and making a momentary resistance, yielded. Completely overcome by this vehement expression of affection, embraced the cardinal in his turn, and buried in his shoulder his trembling and altered face. His burning tears dropped upon the stainless purple of Federigo, while the guiltless hands of the holy bishop affectionately pressed those members and touched that garment which had been accustomed to hold the weapons of violence and treachery. Disengaging himself at length from this embrace, the unnamed again covered his eyes with his hand, and raising his face to heaven, exclaimed, God is indeed great. God is indeed good. I know myself now. Now I understand what I am. My sins are present before me, and I shudder at the thought of myself. Yet I feel an alleviation, a joy, yes, even a joy, such as I have never before known during the whole of my horrible life. It is a little taste, said Federigo, which God gives you to incline you to his service, encourage you resolutely to enter upon the new course of life which lies before you, and in which you will have so much to undo, so much to repair, so much to mourn over. Unhappy man that I am, exclaimed the Signor, how many, oh, how many things for which I can do nothing besides mourn. But at least I have undertakings scarcely set on foot which I can break off in the midst, if nothing more. One there is which I can quickly arrest, which I can easily undo and repair. Federico listened attentively, while the Unnamed briefly related, in terms of perhaps deeper execration than we have employed, his attempt upon Lucia, the sufferings and terrors of the unhappy girl, her importunate entreaties, the frenzy that these entreaties had aroused within him, and how she was still in the castle. Ah, then, let us lose no time, exclaimed Federigo, breathless with eagerness and compassion. You are indeed blessed. This is an earnest of God's forgiveness. He makes you capable of becoming the instrument of safety to one whom you intended to ruin. God bless you. Nay, he has blessed you. And there we end our excerpt from The Betrothed by Alessandro Manzoni about Cardinal Federigo Borromeo.